Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. Now, just in case you hadn't noticed, I'm a Southern woman and pretty much a Southern cook. And one of the overriding principles of Southern cooking is that whatever you're making, you make it like your mama made it. And while I generally follow that overriding principle, I'm in the mood for pimento cheese. And this is Nacho Mama's pimento cheese. There is a traditional Southern pimento cheese, and this ain't it. Before I get started, if you will, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate that. Now let's get cooking. Now the main difference in my pimento cheese and the traditional Southern pimento cheese is the cheese. The tradition is sharp cheddar. The sharper the better. I have found that a lot of people don't eat pimento cheese because it's just so sharp it makes your mouth pucker. So I have here 3 cups of grated taco cheese, which is Colby and Jack. And I find that that suits me and most people pretty well. Then I have 3 tablespoons full of mayo. I have 1 8-ounce package of cream cheese. I have here, I believe this is a 4-ounce jar of pimentos. And here are my spices. I have a 1/4 teaspoonful of red pepper flakes, 1/4 teaspoonful of garlic powder, 1/4 teaspoonful of paprika, and a 1/4 teaspoonful of onion powder. And this is going to give us a mixture of a little bit of hot and a little bit of savory and just a little touch of sharpness. And I have some salt here on standby because I might use it and I might not. It depends on how it tastes when I get everything together. And you know, one reason I'm making this video for you is because I'm growing pimentos, and this year I plan to make a video of canning pimentos. So let's mix this up. You know, this is just almost too easy for words. I've let my cream cheese come to room temperature and soften, and I'm going to put it in a bowl a little bit at a time. And it does need to be good and soft to get a good mixture going. And you know, you can do this by hand, but I got out my little hand mixer. I could use my KitchenAid, but this doesn't really need that much power. But it's just a little bit stiff for me to do it by hand. And I find this is not a food processor project because it's just a little bit too gummy and it's easier to do it with a mixer. You really do want your final product to be a little, I guess lumpy is the word. You want it to be a little lumpy. To the 8 ounces of cream cheese, I'm going to add 3 tablespoons full of mayonnaise. And, you know, bowing to tradition, if you've used the super sharp cheddar cheese, you're going to want to use Duke's mayonnaise, but I'm being a rebel here. This is Blue Plate, and you use your favorite. My mother will only use Kraft. And then I'm going to dump in my spices, and then we're going to beat this together until it's very, very creamy. And this part needs to be creamy. The lumps come later. Now, I have heard that there are some people in this world who don't eat mayonnaise. You can use sour cream if you don't want mayonnaise. So I beat that for about 2 minutes, and I'm going to start adding the cheese. And I just add it a little bit at a time, just for ease in blending. And yes, if you're wondering, I am using pre-grated cheese. This is Nacho Mama's pimento cheese. All those stories you heard about wood in the grated cheese, that's all myth. It ain't real. There is a little bit of cellulose to keep it from sticking together, but it blends fine, it melts fine, and when arthritis has taken up residence in your house, pre-grated cheese is a blessing. So I'm just going to continue to add this cheese a little at a time until it's all blended in. And I'm adding the last of it right now. And if you'll look at this texture, I'll try to show you that. This is pretty dry. Don't be discouraged. It's supposed to be kind of dry at this point. We still have to add our pimentos. And as this sits, it sort of comes together and gets more creamy. So don't get discouraged and confused if this looks too dry for you right now at this point. And don't be fooled into adding more mayonnaise. This is just how it's supposed to be at this point. So now for the pimentos, and I'm going to drain them, but I'm not going to discard the liquid. There's not a whole lot of liquid in this little jar, but a little bit of that liquid is what I'm going to use to soften up and make the pimento cheese mixture a little creamier. So I'm draining it off into this measuring cup. So I'm going to put all of these pimentos in here. And you know, these may come in different sizes in your grocery store. Somewhere around 4 or 5 ounces is what you want with the 3 cups of cheese. And I'm going to mix these in. Just make sure they're mixed in thoroughly, which will take maybe a minute. And already you can see that that little bit of moisture is making this creamier and smoother. You know, you may hear some thunder in the background, and that's to tell you that that's the reason I'm inside making pimento cheese instead of outside playing in the garden growing pimentos. I'm going to taste this for salt now. And it needs just a little tiny bit of salt. And depending on your cheese and your pimentos, it may need a little salt, it may not. But this does. So I'm going to add about a 1/4 teaspoonful. And I've ditched the hand mixer. I'm going to do the rest of this by hand because it's nice and smooth now. So that's a 1/4 teaspoonful of salt. And I'm going to add about a teaspoonful at this point of the pimento juice. You can add 1 or 2 tablespoons full, however much you need to make it loose and creamy. It won't take much. So now we're just going to mix this up by hand the rest of the way. We'll taste it one more time for salt. And that's all there is to pimento cheese. And it's easily mixed by hand now. And we've got creaminess and we've got lumps. And I'll show you what you want it to look like. And then I'm going to plate this up and I'll be right back. I'm serving this batch as a dip. And just so you know, I did try this on camera, but I didn't turn the camera on. So I'll just tell you this is creamy and lumpy and a little bit sharp, but not too sharp. And it's quite yummy. And supper tonight's going to be a pimento cheese sandwich. And if I'm ambitious enough, it may be a grilled pimento cheese sandwich with a bowl of tomato soup. I really hope you try this, and I hope you love it as much as I do. And I hope to see you again tomorrow on Debbie's Back Porch.